Hi, everyone. Welcome to the third instalment of our Diversity in Wholesale Lunch Lab series. We're welcoming back Grace Parisa from Neathouse Partners, who will talk us through our third topic, ethnicity and culture, which is one of our 7 pillars within our Diversity in Wholesale programme. This is being recorded, so anyone that isn't able to be here live, please do pass it on to your colleagues and use it as your resource. We'll be doing questions at the end, but the chat is enabled. So if you have a question as Grace is taking us through the webinar, please do pop it in the chat, and then Zara and I will put your questions to Grace at the end. Without further ado, Grace, I will hand over to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, I am absolutely delighted to be back here with you again, which is the second webinar that I will be delivering. So my name is Grace Parisa and I am a HR and employment law consultant with Neathouse Partners. These are some things that Neathouse do. We are experts in HR and employment law, but also health and safety, software to help you save time, certified training modules, and commercial legal support on top. Okay, so this is our agenda. So today we will be discussing how to ensure equality and avoid racial bias, encouraging cultural competency among all staff, proactive engagement and minority empowerment, and we have some time for a Q&A at the end of this session. All right, so our first stop is ensuring equality and avoiding racial bias. I'm going to whiz you through a reminder of the Equality Act, where this time we will be focusing on the race element of the Act. So as you may already know, the Equality Act 2010 is a really key piece of employment legislation which legally protects people from discrimination in the workplace and in wider society. It sets out the different ways in which it's unlawful to treat someone, and it includes 9 protected characteristics as well as 4 different kinds of discrimination. We did discuss this in more detail in our last session on age, so if you are interested to learn more about the Equality Act, please do watch this recording. What are protected characteristics? A protected characteristic refers to personal attributes or qualities that are safeguarded by the Equality Act. These characteristics are typically identified and protected under legislation to ensure that individuals are not discriminated against based on these attributes. Discrimination based on any of these characteristics is illegal and may result in an employment tribunal claim. These are the 9 protected characteristics that are included in the Act. And today, as I've said, we will be focusing on race. The characteristic covers employees who belong to a certain racial group. So that includes people who share the same colour, nationality, or ethnic or national origins, and they become part of the same racial group. So making derogatory comments about the nationality of someone would still be covered by race in the Equality Act. The first section that I would like to discuss with you is unconscious bias. You might be wondering what unconscious bias is. Well, its definition is bias as implicit or subconscious prejudices that influence our attitudes, beliefs, and behaviours without our conscious awareness. It is a natural part of human cognition, but can lead to unfair treatment and decision-making if left unchecked. We are discussing unconscious bias in the context of race today, but remember, this can apply to any other characteristic of an individual. Unconscious bias is also known as implicit bias, and it is essentially a form of prejudice, and can arise in all types of situation, including where you have had the power to influence outcomes through your behaviour. You may believe that you are fair, objective, and do not have automatic positive or negative feelings towards particular people. But in reality, we all make unconscious decisions and categorise people and make judgments. Your unconscious associations often underpin your attitudes about others based on their characteristics. This might include race, age, gender, sexual orientation, religion, or disability. These biases, which may be favourable or unfavourable, stem from a tendency to make unconscious associations to help us organise and understand our social worlds. Unconscious biases therefore differ to consciously held beliefs in which individuals exercise greater control. So did you know, within the first 7 seconds of interacting with a stranger, you make an average of 11 judgments about that person. And then subconsciously, you continue to justify and maintain those judgments. So where do we get our biases from? The theory of unconscious bias is that individuals' values, beliefs, expectations, and standards are shaped early on in life by those closest to you and may be reinforced through powerful messaging from society, the media, and other institutions. So those messages fundamentally highlight who is normal, attractive, or of value and can therefore be included, or those who are different, unattractive, not one of us, or who are of little or no value and are consequently excluded. As you go through life, your surroundings, important events, and influential people continue to shape you and your unconscious biases. So, who has biases? Well, the answer is that everyone has biases. While unconscious biases exist, they do not operate as an excuse to take decisions that you can simply attempt to justify as being out of your control. So recognizing your biases or allowing others to call them out means that they are no longer unconscious. This could be through self-reflection or interactions with other people who are different to us, and I will come on to that in a little while. And there are many different types of unconscious bias, and I will cover just some of them in the next section. So the first one is affinity bias, otherwise known as mini-me. And this occurs when people favour other people who are similar to themselves rather than acting objectively. So this can create a tendency to appoint or promote those who mirror attributes or qualities that align with those taking the decisions. So perhaps affinity bias might apply during recruitment. If a person who feels the elusive notion of being a good fit for the organisation, or identifying a candidate with whom you have chemistry. The next one is status quo bias, and it is similar to affinity bias, but it occurs where a person feels more comfortable with candidates and colleagues who will maintain the status quo of the team and organisation. The basis for this bias is that by following this route, they are taking less risk in the process. Next one is confirmation bias, or also known as halo and horns. This occurs where actions and decisions taken by individuals are tailored to confirm what we already think. So if, for example, you feel negatively about young people, you may subconsciously be on the lookout for something to justify that bias. Similarly, if you judge an employee's performance positively, this view may prevail even where performance is actually less satisfactory. And the next one is truth bias. And this occurs where individuals ignore information that conflicts with their views and beliefs. So there is a tendency to remember and repeat information that maintains stereotypes and forget or ignore information that dispels the stereotype. I have an example of this one in relation to race. So there was a study in which participants listened to two identical audio recordings while viewing photos of a white male and an Asian male. Despite the recordings being the same, participants rated the Asian male as having a stronger foreign accent and had more difficulty understanding him. This suggests that participants were biased to expect an accent from non-white individuals, even when none existed at all. And here we have benevolence bias, which occurs when managers overcompensate or overprotect those who are different. So, for example, being less candid or specific towards a woman in their performance assessment compared to male employees. So bias is an inclination or prejudice for or against a person or group, especially in a way that is unfairly aimed at outgroups or those who are different to us or with whom we do not identify. Individuals are programmed to categorize others subconsciously, make biased judgments, and jump to conclusions. And this is a result of evolution reinforced by socialization. These are some strategies for recognizing unconscious bias. So the first one is self-reflection. Reflect on your thoughts, attitudes, and assumptions to identify your biases. The next is seeking feedback. So asking for input from colleagues and peers to gain different perspectives. Finally, using objective criteria. So try to rely on data and evidence-based decision-making to reduce the influence of any unconscious bias. Your unconscious biases will have an impact on any interactions in the workplace, so there is a need to try and stop your biases from making your decisions. There are some key ways to tackling the issue, and these are some examples on screen. If you do this, it's less likely that you will be in receipt for any claims against you or the company for discrimination. You need to bear in mind that unconscious bias can have a significant negative impact on decisions regarding recruitment, promotion, performance reviews, and other workplace interactions. So by acknowledging the possibility of bias in a particular situation, you are more likely to ask yourself whether or not you are being fair and inclusive. Taking responsibility for considering issues raised in employee opinion surveys, exit interviews, and appraisal reviews can highlight problems that you can then take steps to address. Decisions that are taken under pressure without sufficient time are far more likely to allow unconscious biases to operate. This is based on a person's instinctive response to reject that any person that might be different or present a conflicting view. It is therefore important that you, as a line manager, as a business owner, take decisions at a pace that allows you to review and reflect, minimizing the risk of unconscious bias coming into play. All right, so next I have a short section on implementing equality policies. So first we have our equality and diversity policies. Sometimes these are called equal opportunity policies. And having clear, well-documented policies is crucial in any organisation. These policies in particular should explicitly outline what constitutes unacceptable behaviour, including bias and discrimination, and clearly state the consequences for such actions. So this not only sets expectations, but can also serve as a deterrent against discriminatory practices. And next we have fair recruitment practices. And I have to say, it is the recruitment process that unconscious biases do creep in the most, and this can lead to a less diverse workforce. If you do things like implement diverse hiring panels and use blind CV and application reviews, which is basically where any identifying details are removed, these are effective strategies to minimise bias and ensure that candidates are evaluated solely on their qualifications and experience. And finally, an emphasis on the importance of zero tolerance towards discrimination. So such a policy is essential for fostering a safe and inclusive environment for all employees. By making it clear that discrimination of any form will not be tolerated, companies can create a workplace where everyone feels valued and respected. And I believe that that will make a more productive workforce as well. All right, so our next section is encouraging cultural competency among all staff. I think an important place to start here is by defining what cultural competency actually is. So this concept refers to the ability to understand, appreciate, and interact effectively with people from diverse and different backgrounds to yourself. It's more than just being aware of differences. It's about actively engaging with those differences in a way that is respectful and productive. And this is important. In today's globalised work environment, cultural competency has become an essential skill. As businesses expand their reach and workforces become more diverse, understanding and respecting cultural differences is crucial to maintaining an effective workplace. When employees are culturally competent, it leads to better collaboration across diverse teams and drives innovation through a broader range of perspectives. Ultimately, it improves customer satisfaction by allowing the company to better understand and meet the needs of diverse clients. And to promote cultural competency within the workplace, it's essential to have training that educates staff about various cultural norms and traditions. Training is vital in fostering a deeper understanding and respect for cultural differences, which in turn leads to more effective collaboration across diverse teams. Consider simulating real-world scenarios, giving employees a hands-on opportunity to practice navigating cultural differences. All right, so next I have a section on microaggressions. Microaggressions are subtle, often unintentional, discriminatory actions or comments that communicate hostility or negativity towards others. They can be verbal or non-verbal and contribute to an unpleasant work environment. Verbal microaggressions may include often unintentional verbal slights or insults. And non-verbal microaggressions may include body language, gestures, or facial expressions that convey hostility or disrespect. So these are some examples of verbal microaggressions. And as I said, these include making comments about appearances and making statements about a person based on their characteristic. And these are some examples of non-verbal microaggressions. These include exclusion, avoiding eye contact, rolling eyes, making assumptions, and using dismissive gestures. Microaggressions can cause psychological harm, leading to feelings of invalidation, frustration, and self-doubt. They contribute to a hostile and unfriendly working environment, which can affect morale and productivity. Over time, repeated exposure to microaggressions can lead to increased stress and decreased job satisfaction. Potentially, they could also lead to a claim with the employment tribunal as well. Understanding the impact of microaggressions and increasing awareness of unconscious bias can help prevent unintentional harm. One of the ways to avoid microaggressions is practicing active listening when engaging with colleagues. Pay attention to their perspectives, experiences, and concerns without interrupting or dismissing them. Be mindful of the language you use and avoid making assumptions based on stereotypes or prejudices. Use inclusive language that respects people's identities, backgrounds, and experiences. Refrain from making assumptions about individuals based on their characteristics. Treat each person as an individual with unique experiences and perspectives. Be respectful of personal boundaries and avoid intrusive or inappropriate questions about someone's identity or background. If you're unsure whether a topic is appropriate to discuss, err on the side of caution and avoid it. Speak up if you witness microaggressions or discriminatory behaviour in the workplace. Use your voice to advocate for inclusivity and address harmful attitudes or actions in a constructive manner. Okay, so next we have a section on creating inclusive workspaces. So one of the most effective ways to foster inclusivity is by implementing initiatives that value, respect, diversity. For example, employee steering groups offer a platform for underrepresented employees to connect and support each other. Diversity training programs help to educate all employees on the importance of inclusion and the ways they can contribute to a positive work environment. Additionally, we must recognise the leadership role in this process. Leaders play a critical part in modelling inclusive behaviour and setting the tone for the entire organisation. When leadership prioritises diversity and inclusion, it creates a ripple effect that encourages all employees to follow suit. This commitment from the top ensures that the organisation as a whole moves towards a more inclusive and respectful culture. In order to effectively promote cultural competency within an organisation, it is useful to utilise assessment tools. And these tools and frameworks allow us to measure the current level of cultural competency across the organisation. By conducting assessments, we can identify areas for improvement, helping us to focus our efforts where they are needed the most. So these tools can include surveys, self-assessments, even external evaluations, all designed to give you a clear picture of how well teams are equipped to work in a diverse environment. And equally important are feedback mechanisms. And I always advise continuous feedback is essential in encouraging ongoing improvement and adaptation. So by fostering a culture of feedback, we create an environment where employees feel safe to share their thoughts and experiences, and where constructive feedback is seen as an opportunity for growth and learning. This culture not only supports individual development, but also drives the organisation towards greater inclusivity and effectiveness. All right, and finally, we are on to proactive engagement and minority empowerment. So, empowerment through leadership is a critical component of any successful diversity and inclusion strategy. When minority individuals see themselves represented in leadership positions, it sends a powerful message that they too can achieve and excel within the organisation. Having a diverse leadership team isn't just about filling quotas. It's about ensuring that the leadership reflects the diversity of the broader organisation and the community it serves. When minority employees see leaders who share their backgrounds and experiences, it provides them with role models and tangible proof that career advancement is possible. It also helps break down stereotypes and challenges the status quo, creating a more dynamic and innovative leadership culture. Leaders play a crucial role in setting the tone for the entire organisation. Inclusive leaders actively seek out and value diverse perspectives, ensuring that decision-making processes are enriched by a range of viewpoints. This not only leads to better outcomes, but also fosters a culture where all employees feel that their contributions are valued. Leading by example, inclusive leaders demonstrate the behaviours and attitudes that supports a diverse workplace. And here is a quick mention of corporate social responsibility, also known as CSR. CSR initiatives that focus on community engagement can be a win-win for both the organisation and the community. So by involving employees in community service projects, companies not only contribute to a social good, but also help to build a more engaged and motivated workforce. Addressing social issues that disproportionately affect minority communities is particularly impactful. So whether it's organising volunteering days, sponsoring local events, or addressing social issues that disproportionately affect minority communities, these actions reflect a company's values and commitment to making a difference. Diversity and inclusion programs are foundational to creating a workplace that not only values differences, but leverages them for organisational success. These programs go beyond just hiring a diverse workforce. They are about embedding diversity into the very fabric of the company culture. Effective D&I programs often start with education. This includes regular workshops and training sessions that help employees recognise and mitigate unconscious bias. These sessions can range from understanding cultural differences to navigating gender issues in the workplace. It's also essential to provide inclusive leadership training for managers and executives because leadership has a direct impact on workplace culture, as we've already talked about. Employee steering groups are voluntary, employee-led groups that aim to foster a diverse, inclusive workplace aligned with the organisations in which they serve. These groups provide a sense of belonging and community, especially for employees from minority backgrounds. These groups also offer platforms where minority voices can be heard and can influence company policies and practices. They can be instrumental in driving change from within the organisation and ensure that the company's diversity efforts are meaningful and impactful. A robust diversity and inclusion programme must address both the recruitment and retention of diverse talent. This includes targeted outreach to underrepresented groups during the hiring process, ensuring that a wide range of candidates are considered for every position. But recruitment is just the beginning. To retain diverse talents, organisations need to offer mentorship programmes, career development opportunities, and support systems that help employees from all backgrounds thrive. These strategies not only help to attract a diverse workforce, but also ensure that employees feel valued and have the tools that they need to succeed in the long term. All right, well, thank you very much for listening. I will hand over to see if there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Grace. It's really, really interesting and great that you kind of talk us through that really calmly and slowly, because there's an awful lot of detail here. So that was great. Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the floor? There's nothing in the chat. So you've obviously done an extremely good job of covering that really comprehensively. Thank you. So if there are no questions, I will just to say our next date, so our fourth and Grace's third webinar is going to focus on disability, and that will be on the 3rd of October. And we'll be sending out a notification about how to sign up to that. And we'll be sending around the recording, and they're all available on our YouTube channel. There's a few thank yous in the chat, so that's nice. Thanks, Lucy. All right, well, thank you so much, Grace. That was brilliant, really, really insightful. And thank you to everyone for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. It was great.
Bye-bye.